Everyone thinks Bitcoin is anonymous. They think it is the ghost money of the digital age, a way to move wealth through the shadows without leaving a single footprint. They watch movies where hackers demand payment in untraceable crypto and believe that once the transaction is sent, the trail ends. They are wrong. Bitcoin is, in fact, the most transparent financial system ever created. Every single transaction, every fraction of a Satoshi ever moved, is recorded on a public ledger that anyone with an internet connection can download. If you send me $5 in Bitcoin today, that record will still exist 100 years from now. It is the opposite of a secret. It is a permanent global broadcast of your financial history. And yet, billions of dollars are stolen, laundered, and moved across the dark web every single year. So, if the ledger is public, how are the professionals doing it? How do they turn a dirty coin one linked to a hack, a ransomware attack, or a drug market into clean cash that they can actually spend in the real world? The answer is a brutal, high-stakes game of architectural cat and mouse, played with mathematics, obfuscation, and sheer technical audacity. It is a story of mixers, chain hopping, and privacy coins. Today, we are going to reverse engineer the digital laundromat of the dark web. We are going to look at the tools that break the blockchain, transparency, and the elite forensics teams that are trying to rebuild those broken links. This is the reality of modern financial warfare, and it starts with realizing that in the world of crypto, your identity is only as strong as your last mistake. Before we dissect the protocols of digital money laundering, if you enjoy technical deep dives that cut through the hype and show you how the machine actually works, hit that subscribe button. We analyze the intersection of code, crime, and capitalism. And while you're down there, leave a comment. Do you think true financial privacy is still possible in 2024? Or has the state already won? To understand how criminals wash Bitcoin, you first have to understand the taint problem. Imagine you steal 1,000 Bitcoins from an exchange. Those Bitcoins have a history. They are linked to the exchange's wallet. The moment you move them, the alarm goes off. Every blockchain analysis, firm chain analysis, elliptic, TRM, labs flags those specific coins. From that moment on, those coins are tainted. Most legitimate exchanges will block them instantly. You can't send them to Coinbase to sell for dollars. You can't use them to buy a Tesla. You have a mountain of gold that you can't show to anyone. This is why laundering is more important than the theft itself. The goal isn't just to move the money, it's to break the link between the coins and the crime. The first and oldest tool in the kit is the mixer or tumbler. The concept is simple. You send your dirty Bitcoin into a large pool where it is mixed with thousands of other clean Bitcoins from other users. Then, the mixer sends back the same amount minus a fee to a brand new address you control. To an outside observer, the link is broken. You sent 1 BTC to the mixer, and 10 minutes later, a different 1 BTC came from the mixer to your new wallet. But if the mixer is centralized, meaning it's a website run by a person, it's a massive point of failure. If the FBI raids the mixer's server, they get the logs. They can see exactly which dirty address sent money to which clean address. This is exactly how they caught the operator of Bitcoin Fog, a mixer that laundered over $330 million over a decade. He thought he was a ghost. He ended up in a federal cell. Because centralized mixers were too easy to shut down, the hackers evolved. They moved to decentralized mixing, specifically a protocol called CoinJoin. CoinJoin doesn't rely on a middleman. Instead, it's a collaborative transaction. Imagine 10 people standing in a circle. Everyone puts their money into a single box, and then everyone takes out their own amount from the other side. Because it all happens in one single transaction on the blockchain. You can't tell whose money is whose. Wasabi Wallet and Samurai Wallet became the primary tools for this. But the authorities didn't stop. They started using statistical analysis. They looked at the amounts, the timing, and the change addresses. They realized that if you mix 1.0534 BTC and a clean wallet receives 1.0531 BTC, it's statistically likely it's the same person. the math started to catch up with the obv. This led to the rise of privacy coins, specifically Monero XM. If Bitcoin is a glass bank, Monero is a black hole. In Monero, the sender, the receiver, and the amount are all hidden by default, using technologies like ring signatures and stealth addresses. Criminals realized they could use a technique called chain hopping. They take their tainted Bitcoin, send it to a non-KYC, no Euro customer exchange, swap it for Monero, move the Monero through several wallets, and then swap it back for clean Bitcoin on a different exchange. By stepping off the transparent Bitcoin blockchain and into the darkness of they create a gap in the data that forensics firms find almost impossible to bridge. This is currently the gold standard for dark web laundering. But even with Monero, there is a bottleneck, the off-ramp. Eventually, the criminal needs to pay rent, buy a car, or pay for a vacation. They need fiat currency dollars, euros, or yuan. This is where the digital meets the physical and where the most arrests happen. Criminals, Uzi Mule networks. They recruit thousands of regular people to receive small transfers into their bank accounts and withdraw the cash. Or they use over-the-counter OTC traders, shady brokers in places like Dubai, Russia, or Southeast Asia, who will take your dirty crypto and give you a suitcase of cash in a hotel room for a 20% commission. These brokers are the hidden gears of the global shadow economy. Let's look at a real case study, the Bitfinex hack of 2016. A couple, Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan, hacked Bitfinex and stole nearly 120,000 bitcoins. At the time, it was worth $70 million. By the time they were caught in 2022, it was worth over $4 billion. They spent years trying to wash the money. They used mixers. They used peeling chains, a technique where you send money through thousands of tiny transactions to different wallets to confuse the observers. They bought gold coins. They used darknet markets to buy gift cards, but they made a fatal error. They used a centralized account at a cloud storage provider to keep their private keys. When the FBI gained access to that account, the game was over. It didn't matter how complex their math was. Their operational security OPSEC was human, and humans are weak. This highlights the core tension in the dark web, math versus infrastructure. You can have a mathematically perfect encryption algorithm, but if you run it on a compromised operating system, or if you use a VPN that logs your data, you are exposed. The authorities aren't just looking at the blockchain. They are looking at the IP addresses, the browser fingerprints, and the dusting attacks. A dusting attack is when a forensics firm sends a tiny, microscopic amount of Bitcoin dust to your wallet. When you eventually move that dust along with your other coins, they can use the transaction metadata to de-anonymize your entire cluster of wallets. They are tracking you with digital radioactive paint. The sophistication of these tracking tools is insane. Firms like Chainalysis have built massive attribution engines. They scrape the entire dark web. They crawl every forum, every marketplace, every tweet, and every leaked database. They know which addresses belong to the Lazarus Group North Korea, which belong to Russian ransomware gangs, and which belong to the local drug dealer. They have turned the blockchain into a searchable Google Maps of crime. For the average carder or scammer, the net is closing. The ERA of easy laundering is over. However, a new frontier is emerging: decentralized finance, DeFi, and bridges. Instead of using exchanges, criminals are using cross-chain bridges. These are protocols that allow you to lock Bitcoin on one chain and mint a representative token on another, like Ethereum or Solana. They move the value through a dizzying maze of automated liquidity pools, lending protocols, and flash loans. The goal is to create so much noise, so many layers of smart contract interactions, that the forensic software times out or gets confused. But even airy, the transparency of the underlying chains remains the ultimate vulnerability. If the bridge is hacked, or if the developers are forced to add backdoors by the government, the laundry stops. What does this mean for the future? We are moving towards a splinter net. On one side, the regulated KYC-compliant world where every Satoshi is tracked. On the other, the darknet world where Monero and decentralized protocols rule, the regulators are pushing for travel rules, requiring every crypto transfer to include the sender's personal information. This is an attempt to turn Bitcoin into the very banking system it was designed to replace. In response, the developers are building zero-knowledge tools that allow for auditability without revealing identity. It is an arms race where the weapon is code. For the developer or the tech enthusiast, there is a lesson here. Efficiency and privacy are often at odds. The very features that make Bitcoin revolutionary, its immutability and transparency, are the same features that make it a perfect surveillance tool. If you are building the next generation of financial apps, or if you are just managing your own wealth, you need to understand the underlying protocols. You need to know that not your keys, not your coins, is just the baseline. You need to know how to navigate the network without leaving a trail of metadata that can be used against you in a decade. The dark web is the laboratory of the future. The techniques used by criminals today to hide billions will be the same techniques used by regular citizens tomorrow to protect their privacy in a world of CBDCs and total surveillance. Understanding how to wash a coin is, paradoxically, the first step in understanding how to protect a coin. Knowledge is neutral. It's the intent that defines the crime. If you are serious about taking control of your digital life, you need the right environment. You cannot learn these complex systems on a machine that takes 5 minutes to boot up or a monitor. That gives you a headache after an hour of reading code. Speed and clarity are your greatest allies when you're diving into the deep end of tech. To help you build a setup that matches your ambitions, I have put together a list of the best hardware available right now. We are talking about ultra-fast processors that can run multiple virtual machines and nodes without breaking a sweat, mechanical keyboards that provide the tactile feedback you need for long sessions of terminal work, and high refresh rate monitors that make scanning lines of code a breeze. Check the link in the description to see the gear that will help you stay sharp and efficient. You don't need a supercomputer to master the internet, but you do need tools that don't get in your way. Ultimately, the story of Bitcoin on the dark web is a reminder that in the digital age, nothing is ever truly every action has a reaction. Every bit has a trace. The criminals who have laundered billions and gotten away with it aren't just lucky. They are disciplined. They understand the layers of the OSI model, they understand the game theory of the blockchain, and they understand the psychological weaknesses of their pursuers. They know that in a world of total surveillance, the only true anonymity is being better at math than the person chasing you. The ledger is permanent, but the interpretation is fluid. The war between those who want to see everything and those who want to be invisible is the defining conflict of our time. Bitcoin was the first shot. It won't be the last. As we move closer to a purely digital existence, the ability to control your own data, your own money, and your own identity will become the ultimate form of power. Those who don't understand how the machine works will be processed by it. Those who do will have a chance to remain free. If this analysis of the dark web's financial underbelly was eye-opening for you, make sure to hit the like button and share this with anyone who still thinks Bitcoin is just for criminals or completely private. The truth is much more complex and much more interesting. Stay tuned for our next deep dive into the code that runs the shadows. Keep your nodes running, your keys offline, and your curiosity alive. See you in the next one.